Okay, so now we have an exciting speaker, Arian Foster, founder of the Arian Foster Family Foundation, NFL running back of the Miami Dolphins, joined by Marc, founder and president of the Giving Back Fund. So Arian was a four-time Pro Bowler. Texans franchise records he held included most career rushing yards, 6,472, most career rushing touchdowns, 54, and the first player in NFL history to have 100-plus rushing yards in his first 3 postseason games. This guy's the real deal, okay? But aside from that, he's also a really, really nice guy, cool guy, does good work. Arian believes that having access to financial education, more nutritious food choices, and opportunities for personal development should not be a luxury or a privilege. Rather, it should be every child's right. As I said, he's joined by Marc Pollick. Marc has been a friend of the Summit for many years. In 1997, he established the Giving Back Fund to provide philanthropic management and consulting to professional athletes and entertainers. Because of its unique focus on athletes and celebrities, GBF has expanded and diversified philanthropy in important ways, creating new donor pools that are often underrepresented in traditional philanthropy, such as people of color, women, and youth. Great, let's welcome him to the stage.
How's everybody doing today? All right.
My friend, welcome to the Social Innovation Summit.
I appreciate you having me.
It's an honor to have you here. I can imagine that 2 months earlier from this date, it would have been difficult for you to imagine on a Wednesday afternoon in November that you'd be sitting here and not preparing for a game on Sunday.
That's true. That's true. I decided to retire early, and it's not commonplace to do it mid-season, but I just couldn't. I didn't have it in me to pretend like I had the passion for it like I used to. It's a game that takes mental and physical wear on your body, and I just didn't want to cheat my teammates out of another roster spot, because that's a good squad over there.
So it's rare that somebody in the middle of an interview would check their text, but your buddy Humble over there texted me, and I hope it comes up, texted me what you wrote when you retired. And it's so interesting that if you don't mind, I'd like to read it. Unless you remember it word for word.
I definitely don't do that.
Okay.
A lot of hits to the head, man.
There comes a time in every athlete's career when their ambition and their body are no longer on the same page. I've reached that point. It's hard to write those words because this game has been everything to me, my therapy, my joy, my solace, and my enemy. I've learned to love every facet of this game, from the peak of accomplishment to the gutter of criticism, and it all makes the ride worthwhile. I've been fortunate enough to play many successful years in this league. I've given a lot to this game and given up a lot for it, but it has returned to me more than I could ever have asked for. Faceless gladiators have been shuffled in and out of this arena for decades, and I'm proud to have taken part in that legacy. My father always said, "You'll know when it's time to walk away." It's never been more clear than right now. I'm walking away with peace. I know it's not commonplace to do it mid-season, but my body just can't take this punishment anymore. It can't take the punishment this game asks for any longer. I want to thank the Miami Dolphins with everything in me for allowing me to bow out with grace and make this process as easy as possible. It means everything to me and my family. I've created lifelong relationships in my short time there that I'm forever thankful for. Every athlete would love to go out as a Super Bowl MVP, riding off into the sunset with the crowd cheering their name. Unfortunately, life has other plans, and they're usually opposite the imagination. But that imagination got me this far, and I could not be prouder of the things my teammates and I accomplished in this game. I'd like to send a sincere thank you to all those I've come in contact with throughout this journey. This is a beautifully violent game, and the same reason I loved it is why I have to walk away. That bittersweet taste will forever linger with me. But on my next journey, I get to carry those memories with me, hopefully. Pretty amazing statement. So let's talk about that journey. You've had a unique journey from undrafted rookie free agent to NFL superstar to leading rusher in the NFL to having to retire mid-season, which, as you said, is very rare. Tell us something about that journey, what you've learned along the way about yourself and what you've learned from others.
It's a lot, and it's hard to bottle up into one statement, but some of the biggest things that I learned is that the reason why I loved football in the first place, it was I grew up in an inner city home in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where sometimes we struggled to provide food. My parents struggled to provide food for us. A lot of nights we went hungry. A lot of nights we didn't have the lights on. But it gave me a sense of community. It gave me a sense of family. So where I was going on the football field as a young kid, and all the problems went away. I also grew up in a domestically violent household. So all of these problems that we were faced with as kids, it kind of just went away. And I think that speaks to a lot about the energy of human beings and how we connect to each other, about how something that plagued me in my entire youth, when I'm on this field and I'm around these people, you're not thinking about it. And that joy that little kids have came back out. And then growing up as a man, those same things manifested themselves at the professional level. You have the politics of the NFL, you have the media, you have rumors flying around, you have the financial aspect of it, the money, everything that is involved with it. It all kind of goes away when you're on the field with your brothers out there. And I think that's what it does for a lot of kids. It gives them hope, and that hope is what kept me going for a very long time.
Growing up, who were some of your heroes?
I didn't really have heroes per se, man. I just had people I really liked. I didn't have there was nobody I aspired to be. First, my father was my hero growing up. But then you realize that they're human, and that's, I think, what really shattered the superhero myth for me, was you realize that your heroes are human. But it also aided me in my journey, because if my heroes were human, then any goal that they had or anything that they did that I wanted to do was obtainable, because they're human just like me. They put the pants on one leg at a time. And so I didn't really have a lot of heroes growing up. It was more people that I looked up to, and they just were markers for me, goals, and that's how I looked at it.
You know, that really resonates with me because, as you know, I had the great pleasure of working for many years with Elie Wiesel, who was one of my heroes. And when you work with somebody that closely, you get to see the human side of them. As great a person as he is, he's a human being and has faults and made mistakes.
Absolutely.
So millions of kids play football in the United States, and about 1/1000% of those kids ever make it to the NFL. They all want to. About 1/100,000 of the kids who play football make it to the NFL. So my question for you is, I know when you were in elementary school, you had a teacher who said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And you said, "I want to be an NFL football player." But when did you know that you had what it took to be in that 1/100,000% that could make it to the NFL? When did you really know?
I don't think I ever really knew, honestly. And it's weird saying that, even.
Well, you did.
Well, you know how they say ignorance is bliss, right? So if, as a kid, you're thinking about those odds and you're actually understanding those odds, it would be very disheartening. So as a young child, you hear all of the fences that everybody else puts up for you. There's always a barrier that's going to be there. So I'll give you a little example. So when you're growing up in the football world, the goal is to play varsity football. So you're walking in high school as a freshman, and they're saying, "Oh, you're never gonna play varsity. You know, these guys are big and they hit fast." So as soon as you make it to varsity, it's like, "Yeah, you're not gonna play well in varsity." Probably, then you start balling in varsity, and then the next hurdle that people put up is, "You're not gonna go to D1. You'll probably go D3 or something." Like, you hear all the noise, and then you get a D1 scholarship, and then as soon as you get a D1 scholarship, you're probably gonna go professional in something other than sports. They have commercials about it now, so it's getting real. And you keep on breaking down these barriers, and as soon as you're done with the D1 barrier, you're not going to play well. You're not going to get in the NFL. It's the statistic: you're 1 in 100 kids, or 1,000. Then that's just to get in the NFL draft. So I go to the NFL draft. I was undrafted. Then you look at the statistics of undrafted NFL players and how likely you are to have a successful career. And the statistic of the average of a person that plays in the NFL is 3 years.
Right.
And so there's like, oh, well, you're probably only going to play 3 years. And then you surpass that 3-year mark. And then it's just always a barrier that they put in front of you. So if you're aware of all of those barriers, it's annoying. It'll eat at you. And so you can't worry about other people. Those are other people's fears. And fear is an illusion. And so I learned that at a very young age, that people are just projecting the fears that they had in their lives onto you. And it's not fair, and we do it to kids all the time. So when I'm telling my teacher, I know it's very far-fetched, but who are you to kill a kid's dream? This is an 11-year-old kid telling you what he wants to do with his life, and you're going to tell him, be realistic. That's realistic for me. Why would you not agree with me? Guide me if you really care about me. But for so often, it's the fear that everybody else has in their lives, and it's that projection of the fear onto everybody else. It's interesting.
But did it surprise you how much success you had? Or when you saw yourself the #1 rusher in the NFL that year, did you say, yeah, that's me?
No, because, and I say that humbly because, ironically, my best friend is humble. His name is Humble. He's right here.
Right.
And so I won the starting job, and before my very first game in the NFL where I was a starter, I couldn't sleep. I was up late, so I was texting with him like 3 in the morning, and he goes, "What are your goals for the season?" And I tell him my goals, and it was 1,500 yards, or 1,700 yards, 15 touchdowns, and blah, blah, blah. So for somebody who's never started an NFL game, it's, what are you talking about, right? So
ambitious.
My best friend, he's as honest as he can be. He's like, it's kind of, I mean, be a little modest, man. You know, like you said your goal's kind of high. It's my best friend talking, right? That was the year I ended up leading the league in rushing. So I fell short of my goals. I had 1,600 yards and 16 touchdowns. But it didn't surprise me because in my mind, I was that good. But it's that old saying, it's like you're crazy to everybody else until it works. And then when it works, it's like, oh, he saw something that we didn't see. So you always have to be a little crazy, like ambitious and crazy is kind of synonymous.
So you're known for being thoughtful, compassionate, and extremely charitable. We know that.
Depends on who you ask.
Very few NFL players major in philosophy in college.
True.
Tell this audience something about the causes that mean the most to you. Let's talk about your charity. What really excites you about doing something to change this world?
So as I previously stated, I grew up in the inner city, and there were many times that we went to bed, we didn't have dinner. My mom, that's one of the hardest things is to look at your mom. She's like, I don't have anything for you to eat. And you have to comfort her because that's, it's devastating to a mother that she can't feed her children. It's tough. But it's the access to healthy foods. It's just like the brother that was talking up here earlier. He's given his life to giving access to healthy foods to inner city communities because there are food deserts, and this is that my sister actually got her master's in this, and this is what she's given her life to as well. So there are food deserts in inner cities that plague people, and there's not access to those foods. So that's one of the things that our foundation is passionate about, is helping kids get access to those resources. Another thing is increasing financial literacy in our communities, because far too often, I mean, especially my colleagues in my field, you see guys get the money that they've been working for since they were kids, and they blow it, and they just spend it on things that don't actually have any substance. And I think that it's a problem that starts at the youth. It's something that these men don't understand, the wealth that they've accumulated and the good that they can do. And I think that if we educate our kids about credit, housing, loans, like all of these things that a lot of the country takes for granted because that information is readily accessible, I think we can inspire change from that aspect, and it's just trying to do my part.
So you've already reached the pinnacle of your chosen career before the age 30. You're 30 now. You have a few more years left. If you could have any job in the world right now going forward, what would it be?
Well, in light of the current events, I might run for president.
And you might get a few votes.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially in this room.
Definitely showed it's not far-fetched. But honestly, man, what I love to do now is I love creating music. That's always been. I fell in love with my pen, and I'm a writer before I fell in love with football. But I love to create music, and I love venture capitalism. And me and like my friend Humble, we do business together, and our goal is to do. It is 100% what this room is about. We called it, kind of coined the phrase, conscious capitalism. And it's trying to generate wealth for ourselves, of course, but doing it in a way that can change the world. And companies that care about people, care about kids, care about things. So you don't have to be a shark in order to be successful in this. You just have to care and be innovative and find brilliant minds that share that same mindset.
Yeah. There might be a few collaborators in this room. So it takes extraordinary discipline and sacrifice and dedication to become an all-pro player in the National Football League. What's the greatest lesson you've learned along the way?
Funny story. Not funny, kind of funny. I found out that, I'm probably not gonna say anything that nobody in this room knows, but there is no there, right? So as a kid, I wanted to be able to get my mom a house, get my dad a house, and have them never work again. They're both retired. But like, it was the peak of the financial summit, right? And so like, when I got there, I realized that it didn't fulfill me in any way that I thought it was gonna. And
just like what Sam said.
100%. And so I'm sitting in my room in a hotel room in a hotel, and I worked my entire life. I was 25 years old, so I got a big contract. And your signing bonus hits, and when the signing bonus hits, it's directly in your bank account, and you can log on and look at it. And it was a surreal moment.
I wouldn't know.
But it was a surreal moment. It was I'm not saying it, but it was $2 million, and it just was in the bank account, and I was looking at it, and I was like, my first thought was, now what? It didn't do anything. It was just numbers. Like, obviously, there are things that that monetary gains can help people and all that, but like, it wasn't a physical. It wasn't real. It's another illusion. All the barter system evolved. That's all it was. And I could buy things I wanted. I could do the things. I could travel when I wanted. It just was a little bit more convenient life, but it didn't really do anything. And I think that was the biggest lesson I learned, that there is no there. And I'm glad that I had that epiphany as soon as it happened, rather than 10 years later when I didn't have any of it left. But that's the biggest thing I learned. There's no there, and I'm just extremely lucky to have people around my life that share that same sentiment, that want to help me change things, because that's ultimately my goal, is to help this place be better.
What's the one thing that this audience would be surprised to learn about you?
I don't know, man. It depends on what their view of me now is. So I guess,
Well,
I don't know. I'm just a regular cat, man, and so is everybody else. So we all the same, made of the same stuff.
what about the fact that you're a poet?
I mean, everybody is in their own right. Everybody's a poet and a philosopher in their own right. And so, my view of the world is my view of the world. And if people are interested, I do write it down on paper sometimes.
Last question. What's the namaste bow that you did that was your trademark every time you scored a touchdown?
Right.
I don't know how many people here are aware of that. The
Probably
namaste
not. So after every time I
bow.
scored, it's called a namaste, and you go like that, and it's basically I'm really in studying religion and philosophy for years. I really held on to that notion, and there was the light in me recognizes the light in you, and so it's kind of me honoring the people of the game that like football, that it was kind of a humble gesture saying, you know, we're all in this together. Kind of corny, but it's cool.
Well, the Sporting News called you the most thoughtful man in the NFL, and I think after spending a few minutes talking to you, this audience would agree with me that they were hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much
I appreciate it, for sure.
coming today.
For sure.